Welcome to the 2025 SCARPA Great Lakeland 3-day participant briefing. So my name is Shane Oley. I'm the event director, and I am very much looking forward to welcoming everybody to the fantastic Lake District in a little over a week's time. Let's get going. So first of all, I would like to say a big thanks to SCARPA as our sponsor, but also this fantastic man in pink, Little Dave, who this year has taken on the challenge of doing the vast majority of the course planning and checking. So he has been out on course. I'm pretty confident he's run every step of every course now. Dave has a encyclopedic knowledge of the Lake District, and when you see him at the event, please thank him for his time and effort and maybe buy him a beer. So we've got some exciting event ahead of you. What I want to cover in this briefing is some of the kind of functional, practical elements of how we do excuse me, how we deliver the event. So you've got a clear understanding and expectation of what will come from us, but also vice versa. We have a kind of sense of how you'll engage with the event. It helps set the tone, the culture, the ethos of the event, and ensures everyone has a good time. And also, it means when we get to the event, we can focus on everyone having a great time, and I can be confident everyone's got a good sense of how the event will roll. So let's crack on with this briefing. First thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to run through the fine details of when the registration opens, when the event centre car parking opens, etc., etc. All of these details are on the website, and they'll also be included in the participant event pack, which will be emailed about a week before the event. So I guess the headline here is please take a bit of time, read the event pack, and also have a look through the website so you're familiar with all of those details before you turn up. I'm going to just give, for the participants who have not been to the GL3D before, or for people who don't know, I'm just going to spend 1 minute just describing the event and kind of a bit of the background. So the Great Lakeland 3-Day, or GL3D, was established in 1998 by Joe Falconer. Joe is absolute legend of the sport. And for the next 10 years, Joe organised the event with about, on average, about 50 people attending. The event has clearly grown significantly since then, and I feel it's kind of an honour and a privilege to be the custodian of this event. And the one thing that we've really tried hard to focus on is retaining that famously relaxed and friendly atmosphere that the event has always been famous and well regarded for. Every year it becomes a bit more like a festival of running and a little bit less like an old school mountain marathon where there was a greater onus on self-resilience and self-sufficiency. Certainly the first year I did the event as a participant in the early 2000s, Joe presented me with a can of beer and half a pint of milk at the overnight camp, and that was it. So at the event, there's 5 linear courses and the adventure course. The adventure course is effectively a score course. What's unique about the GL3D is you enter the event and then you choose the course on the day. So you can mix and match as you want, but if you want an overall result, you need to do the same course for each of the 3 days. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of each of the courses. That information is on the website. So if you're not sure what you want to do, spend a bit of time looking at the website now and come to registration, and by all means ask the team there and they can help you make a decision. There's quite a lot of new things for 2025. Probably the most exciting thing is historically we've had a cinema on the Friday night, which was a paid for extra. Now we're making cinema freely available to all the participants, and we're partnering with the Trails in Motion film tour. So they bring this collection of world trail and mountain running films together every year. They've got an amazing selection, and they'll be showing their films, I think, on 3 occasions through the weekend at various times. And you can just call in and watch them whenever you like, and it's all part of the event experience. This year, we're also offering some yoga sessions. We're offering some guided running with mountain runs, some how to use your running poles. Lakeland Paws will be talking about looking after your dogs on events. We are also going to have a dog show. I believe my colleagues have decided there will be a prize for the dog that looks most like me. You've got to love your colleagues. um, we are also providing GPX files for all the courses. So we know that navigating in the mountains can be a real barrier um, to entry to mountain trail running events. And, to be quite frank, the GL3D has never really been about racing and competition. It's about participation and experience. So we want to make it kind of some stepping stones for participants who might want to use a map and compass, but have the backup of the GPX file for some assurance of where they're going. The GPX file will contain the planner's route. That's Little Dave's routes. These are not necessarily the fastest routes, but they are the safest logical lines using the well-established paths and trails. We've got some fantastic speakers attending the event. Tom Hollins, Robin Cassidy, Simon Roberts, and we'll also be showcasing my new film about the Dragon's Back continuous FKT that I did last year. So lots and lots going on. One final point, access into the overnight camp. So it's quite complicated and the scale of the map can't clearly show the best gates to use. So what we are going to do for the first time is we're actually going to signpost the route and waymark the route into the overnight camp. So when you're approaching from the logical locations, maybe half a kilometre out, you'll start to see signs that say overnight camp straight ahead and use this gate, don't use this gate. It'll all be very obvious and logical when you're there, but we just want to avoid any conflict with the local farmers who are going to have sheep in some of the fields adjacent to the overnight camp. So I want to just paint a picture of my approach to managing events. I always have this hierarchy of priorities that I have in the forefront of my mind when I'm making decisions about how the event is delivered, especially when those are dynamic decisions. So first of all, safety of the event team, number one priority. Very closely behind that, safety of the participants. And then third, robust logistics. If the logistics don't work, the event will fall apart quite quickly. I hope and very much want everyone to have a brilliant time at the event as participants, but I know that by getting 1, 2, and 3 correct, you're much more likely to have a good time. And I'm always really mindful that I want the event team to be able to travel home safely and not be exhausted after what for some people will be 5 days of continuous work at the event. So there are some rules which are very clearly laid out on the GL3D website. There's also linked from the same page is a link to the AREA events universal rules. Now, there's nothing that should surprise anybody within these rules. And if you've taken part in a well-organized fell or trail running event or other events in the past, you'll be very familiar with these types of rules. All I want to say is it's probably worth spending a few minutes just checking you understand what is expected of you, and also understanding from our perspective, our philosophy is that fairness is really important, and that means that we will blindly apply the rules to everyone at the event. That is regardless of whether you are first or last, or whether you're my friend or a stranger. That's always been our approach, and that is the approach we'll take at the event. Map information. So you can see on the slide the 2023 GL3D map. What should be obvious is those purple out of bounds areas. These are generally low-level fields where it would be very obvious you should not be in. These will be agricultural fields. Please respect the out of bounds areas, and there are well-marked routes on the map, and there are also the logical routes that you can travel through those out of bounds areas on the established paths and tracks. On the map are all of the different course descriptions and checkpoint locations. So you can read the map and it will say, you know, fell run a course, visit controls 261, 123, blah, blah, blah. And you can see all of that marked on the map and you can plan your route out. Bringing a Sharpie with you is really useful for marking your kind of planned route. There's also some ecological notes, they're interesting. And then also the emergency protocol. I'll come back to that in a moment. One final thing about the map, it will say on each of the courses, it will have a kind of like a guidance cutoff time about 3/4 of the way through the course. And it will say something like, if you reach this location after this time, please proceed directly to the overnight camp, i.e. don't carry on trying to complete the course because it is certain that you would finish after our 8 p.m. cutoff time if you're at that location after our kind of cutoff. I hope that makes sense. It's on the map and it's pretty straightforward actually. So we use a timing system called Sport Ident. If you've done any orienteering or some of the maybe better or bigger fell races, you'll be familiar with this system. You'll be given a dibber at registration, and you need to insert that dibber into a stational box, an SI timing box. When you insert the dibber, it should bleep and flash, and that records a start time. And if you're visiting a checkpoint, it records your time at that checkpoint, and it also records your finish time. It's really straightforward. We will give you some instruction if you've not used the system before. Please ask if you're not sure. But it's just really important that you remember that you need to punch the start, the checkpoints, and the finish to record a time at those locations. We also have GPS tracking, so you'll need to bring your rucksack or running vest to registration. We will attach a GPS tracker to your rucksack for the weekend. The GPS tracking is not for sharing with friends and family. We don't share the web page. It's a private page, so there's no dot watching. It's purely for safety management, and it allows us to be confident when participants are widely dispersed over 360 degrees at the Lake District that should somebody get to difficulty, we know where they are. Minimum mandatory kit. It is exactly what it says. It's the minimum kit, i.e. you might need or want to take more, and it is mandatory. I'm not going to go over the details of this. There is on the race pack and on the event website, there's information about the minimum and mandatory kit. At registration, you will need to sign a document stating that you are carrying the mandatory kit, and there will be a kit check at the start each day. So when you come to start, the start team will say, right, I need to see your waterproof jacket and your head torch. If you don't have the kit with you, you won't be able to start. There's no if or buts to that, and the onus will be on you to solve that problem. There are some common mistakes that get made at the GL3D, and particularly one I'll highlight at the GL3D is people taking one head torch and they leave it in their tent at the overnight camp, and then they get kit checked for their head torch at the start and they don't have it. So just remember, you will need a head torch with you every day that you go out on the courses. The synthetic layer is really important for keeping you warm, particularly in an emergency situation. It needs to have a minimum weight of 300 grams. If you have any uncertainty or questions about this, please get in touch with us as soon as possible, and we're really happy to clarify anything that you're not sure about. So the dry bag contains all of the equipment that we will transport to the overnight camp on your behalf. What's really important is you bring the dry bag to registration. It doesn't need to be packed, it can be empty, and we will put a sticker with your race number on the dry bag so that we know it's your bag. The maximum size of the dry bag is 60 litres and the maximum weight is 13 kilograms. I mentioned earlier the emphasis we put on fairness, so that weight is the same for everybody, and all the dry bags will be weighed before they're put on the vehicles for transportation. If they're overweight, we will ask you to remove something from the bag. When you arrive at the overnight camp, all of the dry bags will be contained within a pen, and they'll be handed out to you by our event team. Please only take your own personal dry bag, because the kind of handing out dry bags is a wonderful safety check for us and a very visual way to make sure that everyone is accounted for. So at the GL3D, we have a very experienced kind of emergency team, and that is managed and controlled by event control. And then we have a dedicated response team that will attend emergencies on the course. All of these personnel are current and experienced mountain rescue team members. And if you need help, please contact event control in the first place. And we won't hesitate to send a response team to you if that's required. And we won't hesitate to also contact the statutory emergency services if there's any hint that that is required. The one thing I would say to everybody is, if you've ever needed to call out mountain rescue, there can be quite a long process of going through a 999 operator, the police, waiting for mountain rescue to call you back, and then the team being deployed. We are really lucky at the GL3D that we have a dedicated team that is instantly deployable to an incident, so we can respond and do respond quicker than the emergency services to incidents on the course. Phone us first is the message. On the map is the emergency protocol. Your tracker provides us real-time information of where you are. It's really helpful. Your tracker has an SOS button which you can press if there is an emergency. But the reality is the tracker works by sending out a bit of data via the text message network. So if the tracker is working, it's very likely that your phone is also working. So the best thing you can do if you require help is phone us. And if somebody presses an SOS button, the first thing we do is phone them back anyway. If those two things fail and you're unable to contact us, I would suggest you use your whistle to summon help from other participants or members of the public who are likely to be close by. It is the Lake District, it's not the Sahara Desert. Somebody will come to your aid if you need help. I'm going to go light touch on the medical advice here. I think, first of all, I'd like to say that there will be, sorry, a bit of a dry, tickly cough at the moment. There will be a medical team at the event, and they are absolutely there to help you. And if you have any questions or concerns, please come to them early and ask for advice, because we'd much rather deal with something early than wait until it becomes a big problem. My advice would be to be bothered. So particularly with things like blisters and feeling hot or cold or hungry, all of the things that can lead to bigger problems that need the medical team later on. You know, if you feel hungry, eat. If you have a hot spot in your shoe, stop and fix it. If you feel thirsty, drink. It's all pretty common sense stuff. I would advise everybody not to push through injury and illness. You know, if you're not 100%, consider not coming to the event. Consider doing an easier, shorter course, or consider even having a day off on the Sunday and hanging out at the event, the overnight camp. So I'm fighting a cough. You're very welcome to hang out at the overnight camp if that's what you'd like to do. Overnight, if you require help once the event team's gone to bed, if you go to the medical tent, which will be obvious, it'll have a flag kind of saying first aid. These doorbell ringers will be hanging on the door of the medical tent, and you can press the button, and it's just like a doorbell on a house, and it will ring the phone of the person on duty. If you require medical help, press the red doorbell button, basically. And if you require practical help, it's the white one. So practical help might be, the weather's very poor, my tent poles have just snapped, and I can't sleep because my tent's collapsed. Those kind of practical things we will help you with if it's an emergency in the middle of the night. I very much hope that, like these two lovely women, you have a wonderful time running, enjoying the Great Lakeland 3 Day. However, if you do need to retire, the only place that you can do this practically is at the overnight camp or the event centre. So we don't offer a service to collect people off the fells or collect people if they need to retire in the valley or a different location to our event centre or overnight camp. The onus will be on you to get yourself back to these locations. If it is an emergency, that is the only time, and this is when we deploy our response team. And this would be if you are, for example, immobilised on the fell, that is the only time that we will come and assist you on the fell. I want to share a little bit about common sense etiquette that we would expect of, well, I mean, our participants for certain, but to be quite honest, anybody kind of recreating in the outdoors. But I'm going to emphasize some important things. And actually, the number one thing I'm going to say is please shut the gates. I really don't care if there's a runner coming up behind you. You shut the gate. You don't leave it open and wait for them to come through, because what happens is the gate is left open. If you want to hold a gate open for someone, you literally need to stand there and let them through and then shut the gate. It's the number one request from farmers. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is for the farmers and landowners when the wrong animals get into the wrong fields, and it causes enormous problems and frustrations for the landowners and problems for events. You are sharing the paths with the public. You have no special right of way, so please always be courteous. Don't charge past people. Give people sufficient space, and perhaps if you're running down the path and approaching somebody, just give them a call and go, "Hi, I'm going to be running past you on the right," or something appropriate like that. You are our ambassadors for future events, and how you behave potentially jeopardizes access in the future. So these bits of advice are really important. If you need to go for a wee, please just step away from the paths, be discreet, be mindful that not everybody wants to see you weeing in a hedge. If you need to go for a poo, first of all, we would say, please think about using the facilities we provide at the event centre or the overnight camp, and also public loos and cafes which are marked on the map. Your first choice should always be to use a proper toilet. But if you need to go on the fell, and it does happen sometimes, go well away from any water source, at least 50 metres, dig a hole and bury it. That is really important. There's none of our course planning requires you to climb over walls. So if you're climbing over a wall or a fence, something has gone wrong and you are in the wrong place. So please stop, look at the map or look at the GPS and adjust your route plans. I'm very confident nobody comes to this event planning to drop litter. If you see some litter on the floor and you think that's a gel wrapper, it's probably a runner, do everybody a favour, pick it up, put it in your bag, and hope that if you inadvertently drop something one day, that another runner will pick it up for you. One final thing, so the overnight camp is strictly for participants only. We do not allow visitors, friends and family, spectators to the overnight camp. If you have friends and family spectators with you, they can come to the finish on Monday and cheer you in there at the event centre. Something that's really important to me and has been kind of a growing area that we've worked on within AREA events is what I'm going to kind of caveat or call broadly as inappropriate behaviour. So I think that we're talking about the experience our female participants have at events. And I've actually just written quite a blog summarising this. It's on the AREA events website. So if you want to have a read of that, please do. But I would just ask particularly our male participants to be considerate about the experience our female participants have at the event. So some of the things I'm going to run through here quickly, and I don't mean to be preachy, and I just think this will help set expectations and ensure everyone has a great event. So first of all, please don't make assumptions that the ad hoc male-female pairing that will happen on the course has to continue for the whole day, or even there's some kind of romantic intent just because you run together for a bit of time. Please don't assume that a solo female participant wants to run with another person, particularly a male runner. Please remember that it is acceptable to leave a female participant on their own. They may well be very experienced and absolutely capable, most likely are capable of making their own route choices, navigating for themselves. So kind of don't be a white knight. Please be extremely cautious about comments, jokes, banter about how a female participant looks or dresses, and absolutely no kind of banter of a sexual nature, an innuendo. It's just not appropriate and it's not wanted. Please give people each other a bit of personal space. If you're the classic I guess complaints that our female participants tell us about is being this is not going to be shouldn't be a problem with the GL3D, but being in a start pen and a male participant pressing up close behind them, or a male participant running closely behind them when they're kind of in a racing situation. And also, I would say just be mindful about whether, giving someone a hug who you might not know well is the right thing to do. And you just have to read the social clues that are there and make good decisions. But the assumption should be, giving someone a hug and touching them, that's kind of the exception rather than the rule. I hope that doesn't sound too preachy. We're trying really hard to make the events a really safe and welcoming environment for everybody, and this reflects some of the feedback we've had from participants over the years. Okay, dogs. The dogs at the GL3D are one of the great things about the event. They add quite a lot to the event, but I think we need to be mindful that not everybody loves dogs. And it's an absolute privilege to have dogs on this event. And we do a lot of work with landowners to ensure this can happen. The biggest thing for us is dogs being off their lead. So it doesn't matter whether they're under control or not. At this event, dogs need to be on their lead in the event centre, at the overnight camp, and also on the courses on the fells. The actual countryside legislation states this. So you must keep a dog on a lead no more than 2 meters long between the 1st of March and the 31st of July. That's the law. So please, on the fells, keep your dogs on a lead and well, in the camp as well. A slightly more humorous note, every evening at the GL3D, somebody's dog, the dog will be hungry from a big day out on the fell, will suddenly jump up and grab a neighbour's burger or some other food. So if you're bringing your dog with you, be conscious that it always happens to somebody. And if that does happen, apologise and buy your companion another burger. A few other considerations, drinking water. We will obviously provide drinkable water at the event centre in the overnight camp. Fill up for the weekend ahead, it's likely to be warm. If you choose to drink from the water, natural water on the fells, please be very mindful it might not be safe. It's your risk if you want to drink untreated water. Our advice would always be to treat water. It's possible you're going to come across some sheep and cows on the fells. Sheep will largely just ignore you. They might trot 10, 15 meters away and carry on chewing the grass. Cows can be inquisitive. If they're looking like they've got a bit of energy to them, just slow down, walk past them. And this is probably the one occasion when I would advise you to take your dog off the leash if the cows are getting frisky. There are a few sections of steep ground on some of the courses. You need to apply sound-mounted judgment, common sense to whether the route choice you are considering is correct. there's certainly no, really serious terrain that the courses are planned to be in. So you will be crossing some fairly significant A roads and you will be running along some minor rural roads at times. What I would like to highlight particularly, well, for all of those situations is please, first of all, don't wear headphones so that you can hear traffic. Always look both left and right. It can be quite disconcerting when cars are overtaking and they're on the wrong side of the road, and this is particularly relevant for the A66. Be mindful of cyclists and electric cars that you might not hear. And basically, I'm saying take care, be mindful. This is not a closed road event. So the catering provision is one of the things that's developed significantly at the GL3D over the years, and we've got a great range of caterers providing food. SCARPA are also kindly providing everybody with a complimentary beer on Saturday night only. You will need to bring your own mug, plate, cutlery, those kind of items, and that's all wrapped up with our overarching sustainability policy. What I would say is we are not planning the event so that the caterers can feed everybody all of the time. And I would, sorry, particularly throat, I would strongly advise everybody to make sure they bring food with them. Obviously, you need food for the hill each day, but also a meal or two just in case you finish early or want to finish late or want to set off early, or maybe the caterers have run out of food. So we hope to be able to provide food for everybody if they want to buy it from the caterers, but it's not quite guaranteed. Okay, finally, I hope this has kind of given you a good impression of the event, ethos and culture. I want you to have a wonderful time, and my main focus when you arrive from Friday next week will be a big welcome and positive adventure in the Fells. If you have any questions, please get in touch, phone us, email, use live chat. We're really happy to answer questions and chat with you and deal with anything you're uncertain about before you arrive at the event. That's it from me. Look forward to seeing you and welcoming you to the 2025 SCARPA Great Lakeland 3-Day. Thank you.